Hello and welcome to the Argyle Finance Leadership Forum. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Andrew Foster, Vice President, Global Solutions Consulting, AppZen. We're excited to have Andrew with us for a thought leadership titled Analyzing Data Insights, Unlocking the Benefits of Generative AI for Finance Teams. Welcome, Andrew. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and it's a great pleasure to be here today. So we've got about 30 minutes together, and I wanted to share some of the results of a survey that we recently did with our existing customers. For some of you that may not know AppZen, as a way of introduction, AppZen's been in existence for around about 10 years, really with AI at the forefront of everything that we build out. We have an AI platform that covers a multitude of applications such as travel and expense, credit cards, accounts payable, and we have a number of AI models that actually audit and check and do relevant balances on those financial transactions. And whilst today I'm not going to be talking about the exact things that AppZen does today, as I go through the survey, it's definitely worth noting that organizations such as Tesla, Amazon, Salesforce, that are AI leaders in their own right, trust us with their information. And so when we asked them in terms of a survey, we asked these existing customers that have invested heavily in AI already, but we wanted to gauge the understanding of generative AI. We wanted to understand the areas in which they felt that type of AI technology could help them transform finance transactions. And we also wanted to try and gauge what further additional things do they feel that they would like to automate with this kind of AI. And so we asked them a survey. We sent out about 30 questions. Based on the question, it would then send you to another set of questions. And so today, what I would like to do with everybody is to say, okay, these are the results that we found. These are some of the trends that we saw. And at the same time, try and sort of gauge feedback from the audience in terms of some of the same questions that we asked. And so I'm going to start with a real quick poll question. And this is the first question that we asked our customers. And we sent this survey out to hundreds of customers, by the way, and had very positive responses back. But we kind of asked one very simple question. What should be your primary experience with ChatGPT? And we were super intrigued to understand what those results were. Again, given that we work with organizations that have already invested with AppZen in the areas of AI. And we got a bunch of results back. There was a general understanding of ChatGPT. There was a little bit of feedback in terms of, okay, I've heard of it, but I've never used it. And that was around 42%. I've heard of it. I've used it a few times. I've heard of it. I use it often. And just 2% kind of said, hey, like, I've never heard of it. I don't know what it is. And I think when I'm looking now at the poll that you've all done, I've seen some similar kind of results. 35% of you have heard of it but never used it. 50% of you have heard of it and used it a few times. And about 7% have heard of it and used it often. And another 7% have know what it is, or don't know what it is, should I say. And that was fairly common, really, with the finance team's feedback that we got from our customers. The other thing that they also kind of like commented on is we also don't really understand how we can embed this type of technology to like help us with some of those within finance to improve our processes. So we asked a series of additional questions that kind of help to kind of give those organizations ideas of perhaps where it could be used. And I'm going to share those results with you. I guess very quickly, guys, second poll question was, which areas require respective manual work that you'd like to see automated? And again, when we started to give ideas of where that was, we started to see some fairly common themes. Hey, we have to answer the same question over and over again. We have incoming email inquiries that could be to respond to where's my invoice? Why hasn't it been paid? Where's my expenses? When should I expect to be paid? They also mentioned things like internal approvals and perhaps follow up with suppliers. So there was a very common theme here in terms of repetitive tasks that are over and over again, responding to like email inquiries and so on and so forth. So there was that common theme. And what we also found with talking to those customers was, if you're getting frustrated answering the same questions over and over again within finance on AP invoices, for example, you may actually get the same from your suppliers. They might also be very frustrated with having to ask, those questions over and over again. And so when I see the results from everybody today, I think the responses are a little bit more mixed than what we found. And so, about 23% of you on average, were a little bit frustrated perhaps with answering those same questions. 10% I've got here responding to email inquiries, 18 transferring invoice data from documents to systems, 16% following up with suppliers and vendors submitting inaccurate information, 18% waiting for follow-up on internal approvals, and then at 8% waiting for follow-up on vendor supplies, and the remaining 6% division of labor. So I think when we look at that, there's clearly just some room for automation in terms of these incoming inquiries that are happening across finance, and I think that's something that is common. When we then ask follow-up questions in terms of that, like what are then some of the top 3 tasks users would look to automate, we got 58% saying reply to expense report inquiries. Now, of course, you have to remember that AppZen is very much in the expense auditing world. So you would expect that this is fairly high for customers that use AppZen today. But it was replying to expense report inquiries. Hey, why haven't I been paid? When will I expect payment to my account? Why was this expense report rejected or line item not paid out? So organizations that work with AppZen were really looking at ways to how do we take that off our finance teams and actually put that back perhaps onto an AI system. 21% said it would just be super cool if there was a bot that could just answer those questions from employees and not have to have me spend time away from mission critical financial transactions to ask around again why people haven't been paid, or other inquiries around expenses. And then 14% just said, hey, I really need to be able to reply to supplier invoices. And when we look at that, our customer base, majority today are using expense. We have a number of AP customers now that are starting to transact. And so that 14% for the customers that are on AP today found that super time consuming in terms of responding to supplier inquiries. And a little bit later on, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. And so following on from that question, the other thing that we then asked them was, hey, what is the primary way in which suppliers interact with you today? And that's another poll question for everybody. And the kind of results that we got back actually was quite interesting. I was actually fully expecting that supplier portal was significantly higher than what it is on here. So what we found is that 33% of our customers today are using an AP inbox, and any inquiry that's coming in is handled through an inbox. So if a supplier wants to know, hey, why haven't I been paid on this PO number or this non-PO invoice, or hey, I need a change order for my bank account, they're managing a lot of that through AP inbox. And of course, that may then plug into other systems such as ServiceNow if it was change of bank accounts or going through some other kind of internal process for checks and balances. But they found that like a lot is going through that AP inbox today. We then sort of also saw a trend that actually it's just direct on email, right? So not just a central inbox, but actually directly to somebody's personal email, work email address, asking them information about invoices. And then we also saw a breakdown of, 7%, we get phone calls. And the kind of feedback that we got on the phone calls was, it may only be 7%, but that can be super, super time consuming in terms of having to answer phone calls from suppliers. And as I said, the supply portal was around 6%, and then we had about 22% saying like all of the above. When I look at the poll that we've just quickly done now, we're seeing that 25% is on AP inbox, 40% work email, pretty good, no phone, no supply portal, which I think is interesting, and then 35% like all of the above. So I think there's some common themes here in terms of dealing with invoices. There is a lot of work that happens within a kind of an inbox scenario. And of course, once it's in an inbox, it's really difficult to understand, how time consuming is that for finance, and how time consuming is that for, your suppliers having to communicate with you through that channel. So quite interesting statistics, I think, in terms of, how people are kind of interacting. We also then asked like other questions in terms of, do you have more than one AP inbox for different kind of requests? 44% of the organizations that we surveyed said yes, 56% said no. I regularly talk with customers that say we segregate it by, this individual taking A to like, I don't know, A to C suppliers. We separate it like alphabetically. We have one organization that I know of that has 100 inboxes globally, and they have significant resources that they have to apply to manage those supplier kind of interactions through inbox or mail. And then, in terms of getting an idea in terms of how long it's taking for organizations around that, 54% said here, look, they have at least 2 to 5 people that just manage this almost full time. They have, 19% have said 5 to 10, 15, one person, and 12%, 10 to 20. And I think when I look at these results, obviously the larger the enterprise, the larger the teams they typically have. But even fairly small organizations are really saying that, again, there's quite a lot of time that goes into this. So, we understand that, it's high cost, it's a lot of effort, segregation of inboxes was increasing, and tracking difficulty in terms of feedback, poor supplier experiences and delays, and employee and frustration errors. So that again was some of the feedback that we got with our customers when they looked at this process. And so overall, we found that 66% of supplier interactions occurred through email. 58% managed an AP inbox. 60% were spending 8 hours a week managing AP emails, and 75% delegated work based on the request. So super time consuming, lots of effort, but it was also creating like feedback from our from our customers around AP. The things that they were saying was, we don't have a process. The invoices come in and we look to deal with them. We have a conversation between the people that deal with it. Hey, I'll take this one. You go ahead and take the next one. And one client even said, with emotion, right? Sometimes we get quite emotional about it because we don't necessarily want that difficult AP invoice from a supplier. We want to take the easy ones, and we don't want to get into difficult conversations with some of our suppliers about it, especially if I know that this request is going to take me hours of work. All of which I think is fair and just in terms of a human reaction, but it's like, how do we help to streamline that entire process? This is a breakdown a little bit more in terms of what does that look like. And so again, from the survey, we've had feedback saying, I spend 1 day a week just answering vendor emails. And so if you look at the time to pay, if I decide that, okay, my 1 day is Friday, that's when I can answer, supplier questions. I do my day job Monday to Thursday. I come in, I then start working on those supplier requests. I might then have to send internal requests internally for information. I might then have to go to log to different ERP systems potentially, or different payment systems, and I have to get the information and then feed it back. And so we definitely heard loud and clear from our clients that actually inbox and the supplier relationship was a heavy area that sort of needed some thought around. But of course, I think it's fair to say, what are the concerns around using AI, and in particular, generative AI? Like, what are the concerns? And I'm going to share those results with you all now, but I'd be interested fairly soon to see your feedback. But there were a number of concerns about this type of AI, and I think you have to remember these are organizations that use AppZen today, and they use a multitude of AI with us today, whether it's machine learning, computer vision, so on and so forth. They use that with us today. But there were some really genuine concerns. Some of those concerns were, what if it creates more errors than problems that it fixes? I'm not so sure IT would be comfortable with us using it. If I need to have plugins, if I need to plug that in, like, how do I make sure that AI and my IT organization are comfortable and that we're able to try and use this technology? 15% said, I'm a little bit concerned. Will this take away my job? Like, will it make me redundant? And a little bit later on, I'll talk about that. But IT departments, perhaps they're slow to adopt. So we generally saw that all in all, 48% just said AI and security is so important. We need to make sure that we are comfortable with using that technology. 65% said, actually, in order for us to use a plugin, we would have to get IT security. And so I think it's something that, our customers said to us, like, this is a challenge. Now, naturally, we need to make sure that those customers, when they're using this type of AI technology, that, of course, we answer those security questions, that we answer, the relevant questions to make sure that they're comfortable. But again, it's something that we saw in terms of a pattern. When I look at how everybody's answered today here, 23.5% said, we're a little bit worried about the errors that create more work. 35% of you said about security and how I can use AI. It's limited. 17% said security in my organization, and 8% said losing my job to AI, and again 14% around IT. So I would say that pretty much summarizes the results that we saw within our survey. What I will say is that 15% of individuals said respondents were worried about losing their job to AI. A lot of it was, we still want to make sure, though, that we can automate these non-value tasks that take us a lot of time. And when we positioned that and said, well, look, like if we can free up your time around not responding to repetitive, mundane email tasks, and that allows you to do more work and more interesting work, we got some more interesting results, and that dropped some further from 15% to 7%. But of course, it's still a concern. Communication, I think, is really a key spot for generative AI. But of course, security is a concern. So whichever sort of direction organizations go, that absolutely has to be resolved. So very quickly, of course, AppZen has technology around actually understanding invoice inquiries and being able to auto-generate responses. The way that we work is to present that back to an auditor so they can review the response before it's sent. But it stops that mundane work of going to different ERP systems, reading the email and crafting your own response. I know we're nearly up on time now, but for those of you that may be interested, there's more information, as you would expect, on our website, and we do give organizations the ability to look at our technology through free trials. So that's all I had for everybody today. Nicholas, I'll hand that back over to you, and I look forward to seeing if there's any questions or if there's anything else I can do to help.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, we have a few questions from the audience. Here's a question. Can we input the pricing from the contract by vendor so when the invoice comes in, it verifies that the billing is correct?
Yeah, so a lot of organizations that we work with look at like a three-way match, and there has to be like an automated three-way match check. So AppZen sits on top of other ERP and AP solutions, and what we will do is bring that master data in, and therefore do that checks and balances. Naturally, the devil's in the detail, so I'd love to go into more information on that one to get the correct scenario, but at a super high level, the answer is yes.
Okay, great. And here's another one. How can AI be most easily implemented in accounting? What could it best take off of our plate?
I think that's a really good question. So organizations that have done this have really chosen technology to be very specific to a particular task. So in AppZen's case, that really sits into three or four fields. It could be travel and expense. So there's a lot of auditing of expenses today on actual receipts. If AI can take that and do the automatic check of a receipt compared to what you enter and automate that, that's a very simple process to use AI. If you look at incoming invoice inquiries, then again, our inbox technology is very quick to implement and also very sort of quick to get value from. And then same with AP, the ability to, hoover in information around invoices, do the relevant coding, the relevant matching. So what I would say to the audience is, look for specific financial transactions that can be automated. Sometimes organizations look at it and try to do too much all at once. So I would choose particular financial transactions, I guess, with a proven supplier so that you can embed AI technology into your organization.
Great. Here's another one. How can we promote job security while deploying new AI strategies?
I think that's a really, really fair question. And the feedback that we've had with customers that, remember, already use our technology in AI is they haven't really used that as a way to make individuals redundant. What they've looked at it is we've got a lot of high volume, low value tasks that need to happen, and if we can augment that and automate it, then if we come up with errors or issues, then we serve that up to a particular auditor, an AP clerk, or whoever it is. So that actually we're augmenting the work that they're doing. And that, if it was an auditor on expense, for example, we would say, look, it's about changing you from an auditor to a forensic auditor. It's about making sure that you're adding more value to the organization. And I think the results of the survey said it back, like 15% were a little bit worried. But most of our customers don't automate with AppZen to make teams redundant. They do it because they haven't got a lot of workforce. They need to become more productive, and they're looking for technology that can help them.
Great. And I believe this question refers to generative AI, but it says, does it separate emails with recurring invoices versus emails that need a response?
It does. Yeah. So when we get invoices coming in, Nicholas, what we do is to categorize them. And we would categorize it to say, okay, could be a W3 change. It could be that this is like a payment request change. It could be this is the same invoice over and over again. So we then literally look to categorize it. And then from that, there could be follow-on actions. And also in an inbox, we find that, people that inbox could get spammed. So we ignore that. So we categorize the inbox very clearly. And in some cases, we still will say, hey, we need an auditor. We need somebody to look at that transaction or invoice that comes in. So we're about augmenting those individuals, not replacing them.
Great. And I think we can squeeze in one more question. And here it is. Will AI potentially take over most of the finance function in the years to come?
I think it's about augmenting those, the finance function. And so I think when I look at it, yes, there's going to be some improvements, but there's always been improvements, ever since, we've existed. We've always looked for improvements. I think what we're seeing is finance teams that are early adopters understand that this technology is going to be there to help and assist. There's always going to be occasions where humans need to take over. But there's the difference between because the technology exists today. So our clients are saying, look, we need this technology, we want this technology, but we firmly believe that it won't replace human beings. Certainly probably not in my lifetime.
Great to hear. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think hopefully the audience found that useful. I think if there is anything that is of interest today, I would just encourage the audience to go and have a look at our website, learn a little bit more about AppZen, and look if there's any questions or thoughts after this. I'd be happy to field them.
Excellent. And thank you again, Andrew, for such an incredible thought leadership. And I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Thanks, everybody.